And look,
So we have to
because of
really
you,
go to
I'm
the
holding a cup, as you said.
Namaste and welcome
Namaste,
Dr.
Jerry.
Chhitij Raj to the ODHR experience conversations that we have with senior learning professionals like you every Thursday. Pleasure having you with us today. We're very glad to
Pleasure
have you
is
with
mine,
us.
Jerry. Pleasure is
And
mine.
like you, I've also just got my cup. May the cup runneth fulleth, like they say. And cheers.
Right. Cheers.
So tell me,
I
Dr.
hope,
Raj,
I hope, I hope what I am having, you are also having the same.
I'm having tea. What are you having?
Coffee.
I thought you would say something more interesting, right? Right? The HR rum experience, it could have happened then instead of HR experience. Okay. So, Dr.
Right.
Raj,
Okay.
it's a delight having you with us. You have been a client, a mentor, a friend, and I've had the great opportunity to work with you, to learn with you. As you know, that we are creating a rating called the Great Organizations Affirm Learning, right? Which is what we are calling as goal rating. That if your organization doesn't have a goal to create a culture of learning, then there is no growth happening for the individuals therein, and that would hamper the growth of the organization also,
Right.
right? So
Right.
that is a rating that we are creating, which I shared the reading material with you earlier today, and I hope you could just browse through it. I'll tell you more about that as we get into the conversation. And we will be having JC Desai, who will be joining us later to share the parameters that she has created for the research that we are going to conduct on the goal ratings. So, Dr. Raj, to begin with, I would like to invite you to tell us, and there are several people who are joining us on Facebook Live today who would be gaining great insights from you and learning from you, and we welcome all of them also. So may I request you to begin with, the electricity the power has just got cut off. It'll come back again. But may I invite you to share your journey of life and your life story with all of us and the audience that is watching.
Okay. So thank you, Jerry. First of all, having me on your show. So it's a privilege, as I said, and it's kind of always a privilege because it's not the first time that we are, obviously this is virtual, but then offline also we have been in connect. So talking about what means, what is the background. So I come from a very humble and modest background, and from the central part of India. So most of my schooling and college up till graduation happened from a state called MP, that is Madhya Pradesh. And it's quite a kind of big family, five siblings, and I'm the youngest one. So, and my father being educationist, so education always was on the driving seat in the entire family. So this is how born and brought up in a very humble background. And then I moved on to pursue my some professional education, and then started moving out of the place. And then since I would say 1998, I am out. I went on to pursuing my PG in management, and then went on to move towards the northern side of India and worked in Delhi and Punjab. And then finally, I had plans to pursue my career in this education field. So I pursued my PhD and then came down again to Maharashtra. And from 2010, I'm settled here.
So you come from a family of educationists.
Yeah.
So there is a certain weightage and a premium that you have for a learning culture.
Yes.
And you have been a person who's dabbled in learning and development also earlier.
Correct.
And you've been an entrepreneur earlier.
Yeah.
So tell us more about
So I
your
tried my hands.
entrepreneurial journey. That really interests me because I also have a kida. I've been an entrepreneur from
Okay.
the age of 17, and I always say that kida will be alive till you die. So
Okay. So it all happened, or it all got conceived during my first job. So I was selected as management trainee in a company based out of Delhi. It was a limited company listed on stock exchange. So we were into light engineering,
mhm.
and there what happened as a blessing in disguise. They were setting up a plant. I was quite young that time, around 22, 23, I guess. Yeah. So that was my first job. But then all that, you can understand, all that energy and, to do something, change the world, all that kind of stuff was going inside the brains. And as I told, that they were setting up a new plant in Punjab. So I got this opportunity, went over there. And because of that zeal of learning, I would say, although my specialization was in marketing, but then I got involved in the entire things that was happening to set up the entire unit. And that is why how I got the knowledge, information, how different departments works of a company, or it was an industry. So I would not call it a company. So this is how I got the grips on the business. And then slowly, gradually, a couple of friends, I thought that why not get into, because I think we can do. And there were a lot of local people who supported us when we discussed our idea. And this is how that thing started. And we did it for around 5 to 7 years. It was quite doing well. I had my learnings in those 5, 7 years, because it was setting up something in a completely alien land, where nobody's there to give guarantee for you. And that was a startup when there was no term like startup in those days. I'm talking
Right.
about 2002, 2003, the startup
Right.
and all those things. And then their government policies were not supporting for the new entrepreneurs. And
Right.
how you have to go from pole to post running. Even for a small bank loan, you have to have guarantors and all those kind of stuff. So in that age, we tried to do, and we tried fairly good. um, we had our up and downs, we had our learnings. And I had some realizations that how critical is finance for a company, and all other aspects. So that slowly, gradually, I realized that okay, now I have learned so much in this thing, but probably this is not something that was my cup of tea. Because I wanted to do something more, into a line where I could impact more lives. That was not happening over there. I wanted something more intellectually stimulating thing. So this is how then I slowly, gradually starting shaping my career and started preparing myself to get into the educational side of it. So
Right.
that is how it happened.
And now you're with the Mege group of institutions and companies.
Yeah, right. For the past 10 years, more than 10 years.
And you worn several hats in within this organization, leading
Yeah,
several ventures within the organization. So
right.
you are what I would call as an entrepreneur in residence, or an intrapreneur, from
Entrepreneur,
from
right.
an entrepreneur to an intrapreneur. and
Right.
and and you know, I do this special courses for many organizations, where I say the course is called from employee mindset to entrepreneur mindset, because entrepreneur is not about just about somebody who starts ventures. Entrepreneur is a mindset. And I'm very happy that you brought out this thing about, see, you still started in 2002, 2003. When I started my first venture, it was 1988, right? And in 1988, forget venture capital, which is happening now. Even banks were not giving you money, because
Right.
the entire market had not yet opened up. So you had to kind of not only bootstrap it, but I remember, I mean, to start our venture, the three of us, me and my two co-founders, we used to sell, and there used to be a organization called Time Life. We used to sell their books at railway stations, because we had this dream that we are going to start our advertising agency, right? And then after saving money, we started Albatross Advertising Agency with around 20,000 rupees that we earned. It was not a loan from parents or anything, right? And with that 20,000 rupees, we got our first account. And in the first year, we had a billing of 1.5 crores. In,
Okay.
in those days, as advertising agents, 1.5 crores means 15% in your bank account,
Okay.
right? Which is a king's sum considering the inflation and the amount at that time, which we are talking about, almost around 23 lakhs or 25 lakhs of rupees, of course, with expenses and all, around 20 lakhs of rupees. But we were sitting on that kind of a sum, and then we started the first uh, integrated marketing agency. But something that my two co-founders and I were very cognizant about and very, very cautious about, uh, was that money saved is money earned, because this was all our earning, this was all our money, right? And we would be very, very prudent and discreet with how we invested our monies, right? Today in the corporate sector, even in the entrepreneur sector, because the entrepreneur startups are mostly getting VC funding, you hear the language and the rhetoric of spend the money, right? So
Right.
throughout an entire year, the managers will say we have no budget, we have no budget, we have no budget, and towards the end of the year, the team members are told, please spend the money fast, others will look bad on our KRAs. What are your thoughts about this? Do you see this kind of a culture in places where you have worked earlier or even now?
Look, now is a completely different scenario. Means people, as you said, they talk different language. The scenario has completely changed, and it's not because means. Look, Jerry, if I talk about if I start from 1988 to
Hmm,
now, we are sitting in 2021, just getting over from this pandemic. I think world has changed 2 to 3 times. It's a big change that has come from that time. Means in the last 10 years only, I would say that the per capita income has almost doubled.
hmm,
So people are talking a different language altogether. There are a lot of money from the FDIs that are pouring in. So and then what is happening that if I talk about the job market, means the facts that India is a very young country, and around 65% of the population is below 35 and 50% below. The average age is around 29. So India, is one of the biggest emerging market. If I talk about the BRIC countries also, so I just want to rule out this pandemic. Whatever happened in this, we can
hmm,
talk about
hmm.
this thing.
Right.
But before pandemic, this was the story.
Hmm,
So there means everybody is looking at these 3 4 countries where the major movement is happening, and they
right.
are pouring in blindly, and they are trying to catch hold of every segment that is emerging because they want to make fast money, and this is how it has happened from centuries.
Right.
Means people have seen that not restricted to their geographic location, they have seen where they will get the maximum returns, and that is how they have done it. So
Right.
when we talk about 1988, then in the early 90s when the market opened up and all those things have, from that time that all this disruption has started. And I would say that right now India is an activity hub, and a lot of things are happening, and I do agree that it's kind of it would be prudent for the companies also to make good of these kind of situations. I
Right.
don't mind doing that, because the major aim of company, if you go through the article that is written, that it is for profit,
Right.
right? So everything also comes about the human part of it, but then the first and most important is to earn out of it. It's not for charity. For charity there are some other ways to do it. So I think I completely agree to it, whatever is happening, and means people should make good of all these kind of opportunities that are coming the way.
Right. No, my question was very specific that, what I'm trying to say is that instead of people saving money, there is
Yeah,
more of a culture of spending money in
right,
most organizations.
right,
And like I was telling you earlier, that through and I'm saying this from my experiences, what I listen to from many people, they say that throughout the year we are told that there is no budget, and then towards the end of the year, towards the financial year ending, we are told spend the budget, spend the money, because others will look bad on our KRAs. So the
okay,
same manager who is telling the direct reports that there is no budget through the year, at the end of the year is asking to spend the money because you've
right,
not done your budget allocation properly, you've not done your budget
right,
planning properly, right?
right,
Now this gives birth to many insights that a lot of
okay,
times the resources that are being deployed in workplaces and organizations may be just being wasted, not even spent, but wasted, because you've not really. And that's what I was saying. I was connecting the employee mindset to the entrepreneur mindset. That as an
right,
entrepreneur, you don't focus on resources, you focus on resourcefulness, which means
right,
how do you get the things done in less, get the
right,
things done well in less. While
right,
today in many organizations with huge budgets, they still can't get the job done.
right.
Have you noticed
So
that? What are your insights
look,
on that?
yeah, right. So when I talk about the other organizations, I may agree to your opinion that this might be happening. But when I look at the organizations or in the network that I am working, or probably if I am looking my company, so it is not quite happening that way. Means
Right.
because we work quite systematically and everything is in place on the
Right.
chart
No, no, no.
and the storybook.
I'm not talking about mega group of. I'm just talking
Right.
about the general workspace.
Right. So I would say, obviously, there can be some conservative approach while they are planning their budget, so that it's not only they are talking about the top line, but then they are talking about the bottom line also, and what can be the saving measures.
Right.
That would always be a point for every company.
Right.
That with minimal resources, maximum output.
Right.
That that is quite, you can say, in the private companies this will happen, where I would not say utilization, but there's a very thin line between utilization and exploitation. So
Right.
so right, optimal utilization would be the term. And when you cross the line, the only company knows when they cross the line. They
Right.
keep on hovering from here and there and would like to see. But then what happens, I personally believe that at the end of the time, where you are nearing towards your physical financial year closing or quarter ending, and if you start spending, it does not work out that way,
Right.
because your investments today, whether in the market or in the human resource, will take some time to get ROI on that.
Right.
So then you cannot do anything overnight.
Right. The reason I was asking you this is I think till now, most of the people that we have invited on the HROD experience are mostly from the HR department. And now we are starting to invite CXOs and CEOs from the general management also. Because, like I always say, HR is not a department or a division. HR is the
Right,
responsibility of every individual in an organization. Now, the reason
right.
I was asking you this is because, you know, the mega group of companies, the mega group of institutions has started from a small town. What Nagpur is even today a tier two town, right? So it started from a tier two town, and then you've grown into a big empire, right? So coming from a tier two town, one would expect a certain conservativeness, a certain austerity within that organization. So, do
Right.
you want to share some of those measures that you employ at Mege so that all our other friends in HR and organizations who are watching can learn from the best practices that you employ?
Look, Jerry, as I said, that I have been associate for the past 10 years. And what happens that there has to be a progressive mindset for the organization, and they need to have a future, insight about that, where they want to head and where they see after 10, 15 years, looking at all the challenges, probable challenges that would be coming ahead.
Right,
So if that kind of approach and with that mindset of organization, because I always say that the organization is run through a collective wisdom of the
right,
people who are working,
right.
right? So if you have that right kind of mindset and attitude,
Hmm.
what happens that you have to, whether you are in a small town, a big town, it doesn't matter at all, because you need to be stay connected. Now the connectivity, what 20 years back and what now is completely different. So this is how the ideology has been, what I see over here and what I felt and what I'm living. And it all started around 35, 40 years back in this
Right,
group. And we have made some phenomenal progress in the last 10, 15 years, using everything that was available, from technology to people, to increasing their potential, to reskilling them, upskilling them, and to getting the maximum out of the potential that they have. So
right,
everything is working. And then what happens that it's not only the finances, it's about the people also, those who work. So you hire the right kind of people with the right mindset, with that kind of progressive mindset, and you get the results out of it. And when the vision and mission is clear, it's very easy to achieve them with the right kind of resources.
very nice, excellent. You know, the the connection that I'm trying to kind of derive over here is, you you emphasized at least thrice now that you've been here for 10 years, which tells me that you feel a certain pride and ownership of being at the Mege group. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
uh, I would say that there are two things that has always motivated me, and one is the learning, and second thing is growth.
Right.
And I would say that any organization that will hold me would be these two things.
Right.
So
And
what
I
I want to emphasize is here that I have been given constant opportunities
to
for
learn and grow.
learning and growth. that is, still I'm sticking over it.
Right. So I think our conversation is going well because you're saying everything I want you to say without my even taking you there, right? But before going to learning and growing, there is another thing I want to ask you, which is that
Yeah,
which I was saying earlier, that as as a professional who is now basically kind of been there for 10 years. And like I said, you said it at least 3 or 4 times now that I've been here for 10 years. And I was saying that gives me a certain sense that there is a certain pride, there is a certain dignity, there is a certain ownership you feel with the Mege group. Now, when I say
right.
ownership, I'm not talking about having an employee mindset, which means you don't need to be told what to do. I've seen you pick up the phone and say, Jerry, this has to happen. Can you come and do it for us? Right. And of course, based on my availability, I say yes or no. Right. But you don't need to be told by somebody else what to do and what action to take. So you have that ownership,
Yeah, right.
right? Now, I'm sure that I worked with at least around 40 people, I think, from Mege, right? Senior professionals. And I saw that that ownership was there with all of them, right? And yet, most other organizations in the world, especially the Fortune 500 companies and the big multinationals, they are struggling to create that ownership with their employees. That's
Right.
why you have functional reporting, dotted line reporting, falana reporting, and I got God knows how many kinds of reporting. I mean, if I was there in any of those organizations, I would have felt suffocated and died by now, right? So, what are your thoughts? What do you think is the reason this ownership is missing?
Look, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, look, if I talk about the responsibility, so for me, it's very simple definition. Means for people like me who are working here, it is very simple in a layman language. If I leave my office, do I switch off my air conditioner?
Right,
This is from it. So this is the kind of sense of belongingness and responsibility. We do not talk about big jargons or something like that. It belongs, means as you said, that we have got certain kind of authority or responsibility that has been bestowed upon us. So yes, that is there, means because what happens, it's a little bit kind of decentralization, because what happens in decentralization, you push or try to push responsibility towards a little lower level.
right,
And what happens when it happens, so at the lower level you get a sense of responsibility, and
right,
accountable for your actions.
right,
And when you do that, there has to be one thing in your mind, that people will make mistake,
right,
right? But then the only thing is that they learn from their mistake.
right. So,
And if that is happening,
what you're saying is that there is a culture of failure at the Mege group where you allow people to make
no,
honest mistakes.
not culture of failure. It is about that you do any
When
business,
mind you, when I say culture of failure, it's a very positive term. Huh?
right,
It's a concept I've created where because if you don't have a culture of failure, you won't experiment, you won't innovate, and you won't
right,
change the game.
right,
So it's a very
right,
positive thought. It's
positive,
not a negative
yeah.
thought, right?
Right.
It,
So what happens that nobody expects that there would be 100% success in anything you do.
right, right,
Right. But then we have to take our chances. We have to
right,
see. Yeah, sometimes you learn the hard way.
right,
But then most of the time when you do things responsibly, you maximum of the time, or maybe 70-80% of the time, what we have seen on average, there is success.
right,
So that takes care of the failures. And one thing is that we discuss our failures on a common table. We try to get the learnings out of it. We share that learning, and we
right,
pass on to the other people also who are in the pipeline.
right,
So this is how we try to do it.
right. Very nice. So the concept is very clear, right? That we don't success, which most people fail to understand, that success is not in our control, right? Because you can put in your best effort and
Right,
still fail, right? And
right,
yet people chase success, and the concept is very simple. It's the Bhagavad Gita in action, right? You put in your best effort, you may succeed. You don't put in your best effort, you will surely fail, right?
surely.
Mind
Right,
the word, you put in your best effort, you may succeed. It is not that you
right,
will succeed, right?
right,
But you don't put in your effort, you will surely fail, right? And
right,
yet we don't understand the importance of failure. And I always say that the reason India has stayed regressive and backward is because we killed our culture of failure. Because if you actually go into our past, we were probably the original entrepreneurs, all independent minded people who used to do their work or the barter system and
Yeah,
survive and live and thrive, right? And then we killed that entire culture of failure, and that's why it's a culture of failure. Because to be an entrepreneur, to be an innovator, to be a person who experiments or changes a game, you need to have a very robust culture of failure,
right.
which is again related to learning and growth. But before I go there, before we go to the learning and growth which you had brought up a few moments ago, uh, I want to quote this one thought by Peter Drucker. And Drucker said this almost 3.5 4 decades ago. He said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. What are the insights you get from this particular quote or saying? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. It sounds like a nice thing, but there is a huge depth and philosophy behind it.
Right. So Peter Drucker knows the best what he meant, but what I could comprehend. But what I could comprehend. Why? Why? Because what happens that what you say does not mean what I heard.
Right, right,
There's a right.
right,
So if you're talking about Gita,
right,
right? So Sanjay was the person who was interpreting it to Dhritarashtra.
right,
So
right,
what Krishna told Arjun, Sanjay did not had that kind of mindset to comprehend and tell to Dhritarashtra.
right,
Right. So
right.
it can have, what somebody
Chi-
wants to say and what I comprehend. But then
Chinese
what?
Chinese whispers happened.
Yeah. So it happened. So uh, when I talk about this thing, I would always say, yes, culture is something that will always, work for a company in a long term strategies with time will change. And
Right,
it is the culture that will take you there. So, strategy is something that there are internal factors which are under your control, and there are external factors which are beyond your control.
right,
And everybody now knows because of COVID.
right,
Right. So we can only have control of on our internal factors. So strategy will always change, but the grit, the determination, the kind of culture, go out with all guns blazing or sit out and under the carpets. It's all, it comes with the culture of the group, and that is the thing that will help the entire group or the company or the people of that company to survive.
right.
Right. So I would always say, yeah. So what Peter Drucker, what I comprehend, yes, it is true that culture will always have strategy for the breakfast.
Right. Okay. So the simple concept behind the thought by Drucker is that most organizations, most businesses, most leadership teams, as they are called in organizations, they
Yes.
focus on creating a vision statement, mission
Right.
statement, strategic goals. And most of these are rooted in what, like you said, in the profitability, what is measured, and that's how performance is measured, profitability,
Right.
without realizing that profitability will happen because people put in that kind of productivity to either create high profitability or low profitability or mediocre
Right.
profitability, and that people are working within this planet, which is what is called as the triple bottom line approach. And yet many businesses and business leaders are myopic, they're short
Right.
sighted, they focus only on the 1p, which is the profit, which
Right.
they put on the top of the triangle, right?
Right.
In fact, the triangle should be inverted, because on top should be the people and planet, and profit, though still at the apex, is at the bottom, which means that if you filter it through the people and planet, your profitability will be more,
Right.
right? So what Drucker is simply saying is that all organizations focus on strategy, mission, execution, but that execution and vision cannot be fulfilled if the culture of ownership, if the culture of trust, if the culture of growth is not there.
Right.
And what is that culture of growth? Culture of growth is not people getting the next promotion from manager, sorry, from executive to assistant manager to manager to senior manager to general manager. They have just grown in title, but they have not
Right.
grown over here, right? And as a learning professional, you led the Dale Carnegie Mega Institution, and you know that all growth is learning. And you said it earlier that if you don't have the space to learn, to grow, to make those honest mistakes, learn from them, and then try again, then you wouldn't want to be in an organization. And yet, in many organizations, while they are very focused on strategy, vision, strategic goals, execution, etc., which is the management part of it, the people development, the people growth, the people learning part of it, which is the leadership part of it, is a missing factor,
Right.
right? And then you have all these organizations which are there in a nice rating, which most people in HR and organizations like. It is called Great Places to Work.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Great Places to Work?
Oh, we had a survey also from
Oh,
there.
you did. Okay. That's so
But
right.
there's a very interesting story about it. Means I'll tell you before you
And
finish your
I'll
thought.
listen into the story. So great places to work around now is when all the LinkedIn, especially the H.
Jerry, can you hear me? Jerry, can you hear me?
Hi, I'm JC here.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi. I will also be joining the
Yeah, but
discussion.
have we lost Jerry?
Yeah, I think so. I can't hear him.
Okay, same here.
Yeah, so I think let's wait for him to reconnect.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Sorry about that. The Wi-Fi tripped.
Yeah, so Jerry, in your show, I have to admit you now.
Yeah, good, good. You'll have to give me the screen sharing rights again.
Uh,
Just go to
okay.
share screen,
Yeah,
and it'll show you multiple screen sharing rights.
yeah,
Just put the multiple screen sharing rights on. Still not. Are you getting it? Go to share screen, or you can
yeah.
just transfer the hosting rights to me again. No, it's not yet on.
Just yeah, Jerry, I've done multiple sharing rights.
Yes, you got given me. Yeah, okay, I got
Yeah,
it now. All right, excellent.
yeah. So Jerry, we lost you for some
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. Sorry, I think the Wi-Fi kind of malfunctioned, but I was saying that when you create a culture of great places to work, right? So
Right.
so great places to work is right now when you will see that suddenly every HR person, CEO worth his salt feels that they've achieved something great by getting the great places to work rating. So you'll see LinkedIn is right now abuzz with great places to work being posted on everybody's wall. But with all due respect to great places to work, if you compare great places to work with the Gallup study, the Gallup organization study, it shows you that 85% of people who come to jobs worldwide hate their jobs. Mind the emotion. It is not dislike, it is hate. And
Yeah.
I always say that hate is a much more stronger emotion than love, because love dies, hate you take to your grave, right? So 85% of people who come to jobs hate their jobs. And what is the basic reason that they hate their jobs? They don't feel engaged. They feel that they're working in a toxic culture. And like you said, they don't feel that they are learning and growing in the organization. So they're getting their raise, they're getting their promotion, they're getting whatever salary doubles or quadruples in every 2 or 3 years. But that feeling of ownership, that feeling of belonging, that feeling of engagement is not there, right? Now, that is. So you're really being given the opportunity to host me, and
Host. Yeah.
okay, you'll have to do that. Okay, the transfer of rights is on, right? So
Yeah.
like I was saying, that is where people don't feel engaged. They don't feel a sense of ownership. They don't feel a sense of belonging. And yet all these organizations are in great places to work. Now again, if you take great places to work and compare it with Glassdoor, you will see that the feedback on Glassdoor is completely contrary to what the great places to work rating is, right? And that's why what we have kind of endeavored to do is to kind of create a rating which focuses on learning and growth, like you said. And
Okay.
I'm happy that you brought that up in the initial stages of our conversation itself, because learning and growth has over time been researched and shown that that leads to a culture of trust. Because when you're learning from somebody, you start trusting the person, and that builds relationships of trust, because teams and organizations are all about relationships of trust. What are your thoughts and insights on this?
Right. So, Jerry, every organization, I think we have lost Jerry again.
Oh, okay. I think we'll wait. Let's see. If we lose him again, I think I will start with my questions for you also. Though I wanted to
No, I think
hear.
Jerry's there. I could see three parts. He's joining. He's trying to join.
So yeah, meaning if it happens again, then I will.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Let's not waste time, right? So
Yeah. Sure.
yeah, we'll just see if he's joining.
Yeah, Jerry.
Sorry, Kshitij, there's something wrong with the Wi-Fi. I don't know what it is, but it keeps hanging. And I've
Hmm.
tried logging in. It's probably because of the internet jams which are happening across Delhi.
Yeah, Delhi, right.
Thanks
Yeah.
to our Modi Sarkar, right? Modi hai to mumkin hai.
So
Anyway,
Jerry, what I was saying to Chitij is that like if you drop again,
yeah,
I will start my
that's
discussion.
what I messaged you also, that you can start, and
Okay.
I'm getting
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
Anyway, so like I was asking you, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so Jerry, I would like to come back to what you were talking about, that 85% of the people
Right,
who feel, so we were talking about how they feel.
right,
And to feel and to think are
right,
two different things,
right,
right?
right,
So, and then you said that there would be some contradictory, opinions on the other, like Glassdoor or something.
right,
So probably sometimes the people are thinking, and thinking can differ.
right.
Means what Jerry thinks about something. Jesse, I think we have lost him
Yeah.
again.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
continue,
Yes, yes.
Chitij. You continue with what you were saying.
Right. So
Shall I
thinking,
put on the recording if you don't mind?
yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay. I don't know if I have the rights to that. So yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, but okay.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was talking about, feeling and thinking. So feeling is something common, that you feel bad about something, I feel bad about something, but there can be difference about what Einstein can think on physics, what Kshitij cannot.
Right,
Right. So that is because of the intellectual level and the knowledge that a person has, that may differ on
right,
thinking.
right,
So to give you an example, when we are talking about this great places to work survey that we got done in one of our company, so we were rated quite good, but that was quite healthy. And then there was a big report that was submitted to us. And then there was a discussion that happened on that report. And there was an obvious question that came from the top leadership, that on which date of the month we release our salaries. And that was 2 to 3 days delayed as per the mandate. So there was a statement that came from the top management, then this does not work, right? So all those reports and everything that you are talking about, if we cannot do things that are mandated on time, it's not happening. So then we do not go by the reports that has been submitted to us. So that is something that I wanted to tell you about, what we did in our company or what we could understand. So, Jay-Z, can we go ahead? Because,
Yeah, we can go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, Chitij.
right, right. So that is what I've been telling about that, about the what about the work culture of the company, and what the employees, how they feel about their job. So there has to be an environment where we have to create that kind of culture in the organization, where they get ample of opportunities, where they kind of try to understand their sense of belongingness by bestowing more responsibility and accountability with the employees of the company. So this has
Okay.
to be a constant effort, because this is one of the biggest challenge what we can see, what Jerry was talking about. So
Right.
every company is going through that, and if every company is going through that, so I think that becomes the major part or the most important part of their strategy to come
Okay.
in future.
Okay. So to clarify, you were saying the management uh, they accepted the report or they did not accept the report
No,
on great.
it is not about acceptance. It is something that we will not take cognizance of that.
Okay. 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 And so, what does that mean? As in terms of applying it to the day-to-day workings, were you all able to make use of it, or what did that mean? If they did not take cognizance, then uh,
It was
what
what I want to say is that although we had some very good rankings in that report or survey, But then the
Okay.
top leadership thought that if we have committed something to our employees and we cannot do it in time, that then we should not in a position to go through the report and everything. First means whatever is there is we
Okay.
don't think it is right.
Okay. Okay. So probably a follow up in terms of what to do, and smaller bites of what can be done would have helped. I'm guessing, right? Just as a solution.
I would like to give more clarity on that. It was like that we need to do some more introspection and we need to improve ourselves more,
Right.
in terms of the employees' expectation. Post that, probably we can go for these kind of things, because what may
Okay.
have employees have given their opinion about things, probably they might be in some kind of pressure or some kind of situation where they might think that we have to give some good ratings about probably what they are doing at job, how they are feeling, what they are going through,
Right, right.
right?
Okay. So, what according to you? So, what we are doing is this goal rating, which we are calling, uh,
Okay.
is to assess companies that affirm learning, organizations that affirm learning. So, what we are planning to do is involve companies to take part in this and assess the company, just like you got a survey done. We will also be doing a survey across companies, and also to follow up with what next kind of a thing. So as an HR expert, and what we are currently doing is to improve the questionnaire, the parameters that we are using to evaluate such an organization. So that is what we were doing with the sessions now leading to the survey itself. So we're talking to various HR experts and getting your opinion on what you think would make a good rating. So, as an
Hmm.
HR expert, what would you say? What is it that would affirm learning in yours, and how would you describe an organization
So,
that affirms
Jay-Z, you have to excuse me. Can you come again, because I was just doing some kind of I was adding Jerry and I missed you
okay,
in the last
okay,
part. Yeah.
okay. So, what I was asking is, as an HR expert, what would you say? How would you describe an organization that encourages or gives a setup which encourages learning? How would you describe an organization? What are the key characteristics? Because on those
Okay.
characteristics is what we will also evaluate.
Right. So there are two parts. There are two parts of it. One, responsibility on the part of organization,
Mhm.
and two, certain qualities that we are looking into the employees, or whether we are looking to improve in the employees.
Okay.
Right. So there are
Right.
two set of things. One side
Right.
effort will never help.
Right. The
Right.
organization. Right.
Right. So when it because mostly what I see nowadays is that most of the organization are over managed and
Okay.
underled.
Okay.
Underled. So
Okay.
there is some kind of leadership that is missing in most of the organization. But I would
Organization.
say that it's not bad actually, but then the reverse of it can be worse, where
Right.
they are overly led and underly managed.
Mhm.
So there has to be right mix of it, and people always try to confuse between leadership and managing the things.
Okay.
But then they have got separate roles, but then they are complementary.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
what happens that what I could see, or what I see, that what should be there in a company
Mhm.
is there has to be environment, there has to be a process, there has to be a system where we create opportunities, learning opportunities for the
Okay.
youngsters, or the second line of leadership, or the pipeline, what we call it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
There
Right.
is some kind of opportunities that the company should provide, to decentralize the thing and give more responsibility on the lower level, as I said, as I was telling.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And
Right.
then what we have been trying to do in our organization, that we have just come up with a new idea of fast track leadership programs, where we try to identify people who are young, and we see potential in them, and then we further try to groom.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that is something that we are looking at. And
Okay.
then what happens, that what we have seen, that mostly in, not only in organization that are in our network or close connect, or maybe we see it everywhere happening, that there's a leadership gap.
Okay.
Mostly what happens that there are leaders who are doing their job, but while doing their job, they miss out on the most critical thing. And
Right.
that thing is that they do not create more leaders to fit in.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
what I suggest is that there has to be some kind of institutionalizing of leadership,
Okay.
where the leader does not only do his job,
Mm-hmm.
but also at the same time identify and create leaders for the
Okay.
future. So
Okay.
that is very important.
Okay.
So one more thing that can be done in large organizations, if you see, it has been done in some other companies also, which can be very well adapted, because you need not to be pioneer for everything.
Hmm. Okay.
If you adapt it early also, it's good, right?
Right.
So you can have some, create more small division in large organizations,
Mm-hmm.
and then you give opportunities for people to fit in the role, so that they have
Okay.
some kind of simulated conditions under the watchful eyes of their seniors, and they can, learn whether from their success or failure, what we I and Jerry was talking about. So
Okay.
these are the things where I see that from the side of the company, it should be there. And when
Okay.
I come
Okay.
on to the side of employees,
Mm-hmm.
nowadays it's a very different kind of scenario. It's everywhere, it's disruption. So the
Mm-hmm.
future of job means what it was there for means probably when I talk about my father, or like those people, I think they
Right.
had a job for their life.
Right.
Right now, it is a situation where we cannot even predict profession for life.
Right. Okay.
So in
Not.
these age of, it means what I call it, means that there's a saying what was there taught to us from our father or uncle, that um, survival for the fittest.
Right.
And I have slightly changed it, and I call it survival for the relevant,
Okay. That's
because this is
true.
the
Very
age of
interesting.
irrelevance. You
Right.
become
Right.
irrelevant pretty soon.
So that is
Right. So
right.
everywhere,
Right.
it means from 20 years back, nobody will say that after 20 years in 2020, there would be a kind of profession called app development. Nobody might have thought.
Right. That's
So
true.
we
Yes.
also cannot predict what would be job like after 10 years or 15 years, but definitely there would be disruptive.
Hmm.
Right. So
Okay.
people have to frequently, reskill, and they have to change their professions to stay
Okay.
relevant.
Right.
So then you need different set of qualities altogether.
Mm-hmm.
From the
Okay.
employee perspective,
Okay.
means they need to be open to learn
Okay.
whatever comes on the platter. They should be open for it. They should
Right.
have the right mindset.
Right.
They should
Okay.
have that grit and determination.
Okay.
They should have that attitude of learning from their failures.
Okay.
At the same time, they should be experimental also,
Okay.
and finally flexible. So these are the things that if employee have, probably they'll stay relevant, and they'll survive.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise
Great.
all the other people will fall out of race. So this is how is the expectation. So what the manager has to do is to keep on looking, challenging their employees again and again for these kind of, keep on looking at opportunities. If I really say, in this COVID situation, we have seen so many professions being changed in our company also. Means
Okay.
the drivers have become office assistant. Why? Because there's no logistics
Yeah. No
happening.
more.
Means,
Yes. Right.
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 So we have to
Right.
just train them
That's
on the
interesting.
culinary kind of things, and how to serve all those things, and they have been retained.
Okay.
So
Okay.
probably 1 year back, they never thought that they would be doing anything than
Thing
driving
like
the
this.
vehicles.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
So that is the
Right.
key. So
Okay.
if a person who's not that much educated can be
Hmm.
open,
Okay.
it has to
So why
be.
not? Yes.
Why
It
not
has
for
to be
all the
all
other
through.
people? Right.
Right. Yeah. You've given some really interesting thoughts, especially the one on institutionalizing leaders, you said, right? And
Right.
that also connects with the small divisions which you create so that people can become leaders in a smaller in a smaller group kind of thing.
Right. It is
So,
not. It is not something new, JC. It is being happening, but then
yes.
happening with the companies, those who are surviving. Means, if I talk about, for because Jerry was talking about Fortune 500, we all know which were the companies in Fortune 500 in 1950s and which were in 2000.
Right. Right.
Right.
That is
So
true.
I think
Right.
there are around 55 or 60 companies which survived all these
Right.
50 years. Rest of them
Right.
are history,
That's true. Right.
right? So if we go with that thumb rule of last 50
Mhm.
years, this is going to happen in next 20 years,
Right. That is true.
right?
Okay. Great.
So
Yeah.
all those who will survive will have to constantly,
Be
reinvent themselves
Yes,
along with
and
their
stay
employees.
relevant, like you're saying. Yes, that is true. Jerry, while your connection is good, you want to continue, then I'll come back.
Yeah, okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so, I was listening into Dr. Raj and his interesting insights on the difference between feeling and thinking. So, I I now want to feel what he thinks and think what he feels. So, do you want to share that again with me?
Uh, okay, just Jerry, and please make sure this time you do not go out of this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yes, I'm here to stay.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So what I was saying is that all the people can feel the same way,
Right,
but all the people will not think the same
right,
way, right? And that is just because of the reason that we have, our set of beliefs, set of knowledge, attitude, and that makes us think differently,
right.
right? So coming back to when you said that 85% of the people feel
No, no,
about their jobs,
I didn't say feel. I said they hate their jobs.
they hate their job.
That
So
is that is a feel. That is a feeling. That is a emotion, and that is a thought process.
emotion, yeah, right. So that is a feeling,
No,
right? But then
it's also the thought.
it's a so at that time you said feel. So
No, no, no. So
mm,
I said it. Let me rephrase what I said. I said that the study clearly shows you that 85% of people who come to jobs worldwide hate their jobs, and I said hate is a stronger feeling than love.
feeling,
That's what
right,
I said. So I didn't say
right.
that they feel that they hate their jobs. No, no.
Uh,
They surely
they
hate their
think,
jobs.
okay,
Yes.
they surely, okay.
Right.
So that is
And,
what we,
and there is a reason for that. So we've gone deep into the study, right? There is a reason for
mm,
that. There are two reasons for this, Kshitij. One is that most workplaces are led by managers who squeeze the lemons.
right,
They don't unleash human potential. They only
right,
squeeze the lemons and get the juice out. I have an
right,
entire stand-up comic act on this, which I do in my leadership talks, just to
right,
take the edge away from the truth that I'm telling them. Right? So if JC is reporting to me, I want to get maximum juice out of JC, squeeze her for the results, but I don't give a damn about her growth and potential.
right,
I'm focused on her performance.
right.
That's why I always also say great parents make great leaders. Great parents, I mean, today's parents, they don't focus on the child's potential.
Mm.
Oh, we've lost Jerry.
No, I
Huh.
think
Yes,
he's again.
Yeah.
today's parents don't
This
focus on the
was a
child's.
hoax,
No, no, no.
Jerry. This was a hoax.
No, no. It's something is surely wrong. So
No, no, just on the line.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was saying that today's parents again don't focus on children's potential. They focus on the children's percentage. You run an
Mm.
educational institution, so I know it's not a small town phenomenon. It's
Yeah,
more of
right,
a urban phenomenon. I mean,
right.
Kshitij, I've done some interviews with you last week.
Mm.
You saw the quality of students from your premier institutions like I am. I'm sorry. It's not their fault. It's the fault of the education system. It's the fault of the parenting. It's the fault of society, right? We are making, I call them career mules, right? In one talk, I by mistake said career coolies. Then I said coolies are much more independent than people in the corporate sector or in the organizations that they work, right?
Right,
Because you don't have that freedom because managers are stifling people, creating toxic cultures. Now, that is the smaller reason why people hate their jobs. There is another
right,
bigger reason what makes people hate their jobs, and this is rooted in our nature and nurture. Kshitij, at the age of 16, 17, 18, all of us, like, in JC, our ideals are very high. As a child, you want to do different things, right? Like I remember at Pench, you were telling me that your child wants to become a train driver. And then we were
fire truck
discussing,
drivers.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we said why not, because tomorrow's, you spoke about relevant careers.
right,
Tomorrow's
right,
career is a driver who drives the hyperloop.
right,
Yes or no?
right. Yeah,
Today's reality is this. Can you see this on the screen? A pilot is
Yeah.
driving a truck. That is the reality of today.
Yeah.
A pilot who has lost his job during the lockdown is driving a truck.
Yeah.
There is no dignity in any hard work. We are not teaching children this.
Right.
There is dignity in doing fraud and doing scams and doing jiggery poggery at the workplace. So the second big reason, which is the bigger reason why people hate their jobs, is because they're not truly doing what they wanted to do.
To do.
Right? Like I wanted to be an entrepreneur all my life. If my mother had a way, she would have made me into a custom officer. I would have been standing at airports and rummaging bags today. Right? That's not my energy, man. You getting what I'm saying? Right? Because I mean, how can a Goan Catholic become an entrepreneur? We are not fit for it, you see, because we don't even get our maths right. That's why Goans in Bombay, where I was raised, JC stays in Bombay even today. In Bombay, Goans are teased two things: maka pao and pondra ponchis, which means
What is that?
15 plus 15 is equal to 25. Our maths is
Okay.
so weak that we don't know that 15 plus 15 is 35. We are very weak. So so how will this guy be an entrepreneur? So she was really worried. It's a parental concern कि क्या करेगा लाइफ में सेटल होना मानते, because the entire concept, not only in our geographies but many geographies, that there's a set plan: 21 graduation, 25 MBA, get a job, right? By 27 the boy must be get married and then have kids, and then no matter how toxic the marriage is, also they have to stay in that marriage also.
Right.
You're getting it? So these are fixed societal norms which we live in, right? Okay. Now that the mindset has not changed in the 21st century. So people are not really doing what they wanted to do. And that is where the growth and learning culture comes in again. And before I hand you over to JC once again, I'm going to show you this very powerful video about a growth culture. What a learning culture truly means. What is a learning organization? Tell me if the video is visible and audible. Huh?
Okay.
It'll start.
Throughout our lives, we collect tidbits of information, knowledge, through what we experience. We try to apply the lessons from these experiences as we grow. We are curious by nature, adventurous. We are learners. And for many of us, the process of learning never stops. Learning can be a critical building block for any organization. An effective sports team, for instance, continually feeds research, intelligence about the next team it's facing, statistics about shots, penalties, goals, and assists, reflection, video replays, and anecdotal information, observations from players, coaches, and trainers, back into its planning for that next game or tournament. And over the course of a season or two, the team is able to make both small and major decisions based on the fact that it is constantly learning, and the fact that it places enormous value on that learning. For a sports team, it's about being able to compete, have fun, and learn. In child and youth mental health, continuous learning is tied to stronger outcomes for youth and families. Let's take a couple of minutes and talk about learning as a core component of how you think and work, about being a learner and about being part of a learning organization. In the day-to-day rhythm of a child and youth mental health agency, there are components of learning virtually everywhere. Research findings, output from evaluations, conferences and workshops, conversations we have with each other and with children, youth, and families. The problem is that for lots of reasons, these critically important pieces of learning are not integrated into how the organization and its people think and act. We may be too busy, short on funds, or overwhelmed by the growing number of families knocking on our doors. Whatever the reason, we often miss opportunities to address some of those challenges by using what we have learned to be more effective, efficient, or responsive. And that's a shame, because if these things were collected, captured, and integrated into our services and processes, the result would be better service, better outcomes. When learning is embraced and celebrated, and knowledge is shared and valued, everyone benefits. Clinical practitioners are more motivated and fulfilled. sharing their knowledge and experience as they take in new ideas that contribute to a dynamic process of growth. Managers and leaders make better decisions and are able to respond to emerging challenges with the latest evidence. Your organization contributes to and benefits from the kinds of organizational learning that can radically improve communities and systems. And most importantly, children, youth, and families come to the table with important things to share and come away with a sense of empowerment and involvement. So, what are the key components of being a true learning organization? Learning from evaluation, embracing the wealth of crucial data that evaluation provides and sharing what it brings forth across the organization. Committing to evidence-informed practice, drawing on research findings and giving them value, as well as including the lessons of clinical wisdom and client voice in the dialogue. Making good ideas a reality through thoughtful implementation practices as you make changes to the way you do things. At the end of the day, remember these three things. First, the impact of becoming a learning organization means better decisions, better service, better planning, better communication, and better outcomes because you stay connected to your environment, learn from it, and adapt to meet changing needs. Second, and think about this from a personal point of view, learning is an energizing and empowering experience. Multiply that out across an entire team, and the effect on culture can be astonishing and positive. Finally, this is not complicated. Embarking on a learning journey as a professional and as an organization is within your grasp. It does not mean radical reconstruction of your way of working. In fact, you are probably already doing it in one way or another. The Ontario Centre of Excellence for Child and Youth Mental Health strongly supports your learning journey with tools and expertise that are just a phone call or email away. Contact us to learn more about becoming a leading-edge learning organization today.
So the reason I curated this, Kshitij, is because this is a institution. It works on mental health centers of excellence, and they have a premier for learning, right? You must have seen that they are giving a lot of weightage to learning and development of the internal customers, because that would increase productivity in the organization, and that in turn would create higher productivity and effectiveness for the customers.
Right.
Now for you as a group of institutions, your customers are students and their parents, right? But if a teacher is not kind of continuously growing, then how can she teach students to be relevant when she
Right.
is not relevant or the professor is
Right.
not relevant? So
Right.
we don't see this culture of learning the way they explained it in this particular video in most organizations. Learning is
Right.
treated like a check in the box, and that is why
Right.
we are creating the great organizations at the rate of learning, because the concept is very simple. Even if you're an organization of 100 people and a small startup, Jerry as the HR head and Kshitij as the CEO or the founder cannot control what 10 managers are doing with their teams on a day-to-day basis. We can't. A
Right.
manager will have his own way of getting results. But what
Right.
Jerry and Kshitij can do as the founder and the CHRO or the chief learning officer is percolate a culture of learning and a culture of leadership where, besides performance measured by profitability or goals which are being met, we also have an important goal of, are you developing people,
People.
right?
Right.
For example, the positions that we were interviewing for the last week, and I'm just taking this as an example, though those people could have been filled in from within, but if that leadership pipeline is not created, then you need to look outside. So in most organizations, senior most positions are always people looking outside. In you call it Fortune 500 companies, you call it PSEs like Gale, ONGC, they're not coming from within, right? Sometimes even the CMD is looked for from outside. Infosys is a classic story. You can see they're struggling because
Right.
why is the leader not emerging from within? And that's what you said, that most organizations are overmanaged and underled. And I completely
Right.
agree with them. That's where the learning culture comes in. So over to you, JC, and I'll become a fly on the wall.
So, any other factors we should consider while, evaluating a learning organization? Any other thoughts that you have?
So I think most of the things I have already what was there in my mind and what we have been doing. I
Mm-hmm.
have already shared with you. Means look, means the requirements can be different, and day-to-day challenges of a company is different.
Yeah,
Means
are
short-term goals
different.
and long-term goals. So because I represent a company which is primarily a kind of a training company, and then now we are into edtech also. So we have been catering to a lot of needs that arise, and because the group to which I belong is a very diverse group, so we
Right.
have got very different set of needs and
Okay.
very challenging needs. So
Right.
sometimes there is firefighting, and sometimes there are long-term vision matching also. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens normally what happens, because most of the time, the immediate goals or some kind of the emotional stress takes over from the long-term objectives. So somewhere
Okay.
we have to strike the balance, and that will always happen in any kind of business because of the ever-changing situations that are around.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
we have to make a good balance of it, and which are the long-term, goals or the mission or vision of the company. What kind of
Mm-hmm.
culture we want to inculcate
Okay.
in
Okay.
the people or the human resource of the company. So that
Right.
should be a long-term objective, and that is how the trainings should be aligned. Now, when I say training, I'm not saying that putting people, 5 people in the room for 3 days and training them out. No, it's not like that. It's a
Right.
continuous
It's
process.
That's true.
It can happen when you are traveling with a colleague to some place, and during the
Right.
travel you are exchanging your thoughts. You are sitting for a dinner or a lunch with the person, you
Mm-hmm.
are working on a project, and then finally if something is required in a closed world kind of situation, you can do that thing. So we don't
Right.
have to find specific opportunities to train people only on the specific time. It can be done on the go,
Right. Right.
and
Okay.
that is the task of the managers, and obviously the leaders. It flows from top to bottom.
Bottom. Yes.
So right, the culture of the organization, what is required, what they
Right.
expect. So this is
Okay.
how what I
We
think
should.
should be done, and this is how we have been trying to do.
Okay. So we're planning to incorporate all of this. One addition that we had was in terms of understanding the individual's drive or motivation, not just to work but also to life itself. So kind of assessing what is it that he wants out of life, not so much as to meaning of life, but as in why is it he wants to work. Does he want to work just to earn an income, or is it about expressing his his drive for exploring, experience new things, or is it about like very society based training, like okay, I want to earn so that I achieve a certain kind of status. So we wanted to follow a certain Dr. Halen's model in this, and uh, understand where the drive for working comes from for the person. Because let's say if he's a person to explore and experiment, then that whole process is more natural for him. So if you tell someone like that to be relevant in the organization, and he's a kind of guy who will do it himself, whereas a guy who's in it for the status or just to earn an income, he his appetite for risk is much lower. So therefore, he will not experiment new things. He will stay with
So
the old patterns,
right,
right?
right.
Right.
So what I believe, JC, and what I have seen in my life also, the latter of part of the people, what you are talking about, either they fall out of the race or they are always at the bottom.
Yeah,
The
that
people
is true.
who grow in the ladder or the pyramid, these people have been with the learning mindset and growth mindset.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not only about the paychecks that we are talking about. It's more about because a job does not only gives you a paycheck, it always gives you an opportunity to learn also.
Right. Right.
Right. So the
Okay.
people, those who look at it as an opportunity to learn also will always, will be far ahead
Do
of the
better.
people, those who do not see it as an opportunity, but only they look at it as a means of paying their electricity bills or some other kind
Right.
of expenses.
Right. Okay. So what I'm asking you is there a way you all assess a person's motivation currently? Is there when they are in the organization? Is there a way of exploring or understanding what drives him? Do you all do that currently?
To be very frank, as I said, we have this system of divisions and decentralization, and then we as a typical structure would be that there would be a supervisor on around 10 people, then there would be a manager on
Mm-hmm.
around 10 supervisors, and this is how the hierarchy is. So sitting everybody, I could say the first 2 3 levels have a very clear cut idea about what the senior leadership wants, and this is what we try to disseminate from our position down the line. So
Okay.
as you said that, but then to be very frank, I am also of the opinion that you cannot send ducks to eagle school.
Right. That is
Right. So sometimes,
right.
yeah. So sometimes when there is large number of employments with you, when you are, I'm talking about when you are working with a size of around 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people,
Right.
you cannot have all the 9,000 brilliant shining stars with you.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
Right.
Yeah.
So there would be some kind of filtration, there would be some kind of attrition. Nobody can be out of that thing.
Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
that is the ideal situation that we are talking about, the best learning organization or something like that.
Right.
But
Okay.
then this is how is the reality is. So,
Okay.
and one more
Okay.
thing I would like to say that India is a very different country. Means we have our own challenges. Means it's
Right.
simple that if you have a wound and a broken leg, and you go to a
Yeah.
doctor, the doctor will treat the wound first, and they'll say we have time for the broken bone.
Right. Right.
Right. So India,
Right.
challenges for Indian population is different. We need to first feed them.
Right. That
At the
is
time of feeding them, we cannot say that what are your intellectual levels and what you want to do in your life. That
okay.
we can talk about something later.
Something later. Okay. So you're
Mostly
saying,
what happens, what I have seen, look, what I have seen means if I talk about the entire India and how the jobs are divided, still
mhm,
agriculture employs the maximum people in India.
right.
And we
Right.
normally sitting in the metros mix it up with the IT company where there are people with higher intellectual level. So
Right.
there's still we have to talk about the other industries, manufacturing industries and agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And being the
Okay.
largest employer in India, agriculture, it contributes merely 10-15% of the GDP.
Hmm.
Right. The challenges
Right.
of that sector is different.
Very
Challenges of the
different.
manufacturing sector would be different.
Very different. Okay.
It means we cannot compare that thing, and every
Yes.
challenge of the sector would be different, and to address the solution would be
Mhm.
different,
Okay.
and we have to wait and see how things becomes equal in some time, and that
Okay.
sometimes is not sooner than 10 or 15 years at least.
Right. Right. So you're saying the learning, whatever attributes that we will look at, should be different across sectors. That is what you're saying. Also,
Look,
right?
what we have been talking about in this, and what Jerry has been talking about, the character, and that is there,
That
that
stays
cannot be replaced.
change.
But
Yeah.
when I say that there are challenges different, what are the immediate things that we need to take care of? That
Right.
time, sometime we have to take a decision between the two.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. Thanks a ton, Kshitij. I think that's it from me, from my side on the questions. Jerry, any
Thank you,
points
Jesse.
on? Thank you.
I think there were some great insights by our friend Dr. Chhitij Raj, and he's been in the learning space for long. I like that thing, that survival for the relevant, which not only applies to our corporate executives, but also to our students in schools and colleges. I don't know if I
Right,
told you, Kshitij, we've started an entire program called Mojo Inspirator Life, Leadership, and Learning to Learn Success Summit, which is towards providing character-rooted education, which you just
right,
spoke about, leadership education.
right,
And the reason to start this is because there are two basic and primary objectives. One is there are no jobs out there,
right,
right? The
right,
supply of students coming out, uh, and the demand has gone down.
Right.
So we said that a lot of students who graduated last year, graduate this year, next year may not get jobs at all, and there are no career options. So while it's a grim situation, it need not be all gloom and doom, because this is probably the right time and a golden opportunity to sit down with your parents and explain to them that you want to pursue your passion and transform that into your mission. But
Right.
to go on that mission is not an easy path, right?
Right.
And at the same time, there are 10,001 and maybe more fly by night charlatans who are teaching entrepreneurship online and making you millionaires in 3 months and 1 year. And I'm like, what am I struggling for 33 years? I've not seen my first million, right? So, so, so I think it's a very scary thing. So we said we need to kind of educate students in the right way. And now what we've realized is, like, almost 15 crore jobs. This is research done loosely by industry chambers, because the government has no clue. They are busy doing their petty politics, right? But 15 crore jobs have been lost in the country, right? Out of which 75% they're saying are small traders and
Right.
migrant labor jobs, and 25% are white collar jobs. So even the parents are jobless now. I just showed you that picture
Right.
where you have this pilot from Emirates who's now kind of decided that the only thing that he can probably do is start becoming a lorry driver, and he's become a lorry driver. Because what do you do in the interim? You need to feed your family, right?
Right.
In our extended friend circle, I know a person who was given a job in Qatar, and as a commander of the fleet, and then within 3 months he was fired because he was the new rookie recruit, and you can't let the old ones go. So he was let go after promising him the moon and the stars and I don't blame them, because right now the situation for the travel industry is bad.
It's
my
like that.
own brother my own brother, who has served with Etihad for almost 13 years, reached the top of the food chain, right, in customer service, has today lost his job, moved from Dubai to London, and has started again at the bottom of the food chain with Samsung in customer
Okay.
service, right?
Okay.
So these are bad times, because of the pandemic has shaken us out of our comfort zone.
Right.
This was bound to happen in the next 10 years, because AI would take over a lot of jobs,
Yeah.
and the industry was to move towards gig economy.
Right.
But it's happened faster. Research said 2030. I used to always say 2025. It's happened in 2020, right? And many people may,
So,
may never get jobs again.
right.
So they
So,
surely need to recreate themselves and rejuvenate themselves.
right.
And I think that's where the learning, that if you're not investing in people to keep them relevant while in your organization and for their future, then you're
Right.
doing a disservice towards them.
Right.
So I think that's the basic intent of the great organizations affirm learning, ratings, and study. And we have our
Right.
senior researcher, JC Desai, who along with her co-founder, Avinash Miskita, who lead Tangram, who are leading the research part on this,
Right.
right? And that's how it's going to go
So,
forward. And thank you for your insights. Thank you so much for your feedback. Namaste. Have a
thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you, Jerry.
You too,
Namaste.
JC. Have a good evening, and namaste to both of you. Take care.
Yeah.
See you. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you
Sorry
for
for
having
the
me.
net hanging time and again.
No problem. You are in Delhi,
Yes, I know. Yes.
and I'm in a tier 2 city.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
rub it in. All right, we get that.
Okay, Jerry. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.